Next up, I want to introduce Sara Jayyousi, and just to kind of update you on Sara and the Jayyousi family. Sara actually just received an award from CCR last night in New York City, which is very exciting. So CCR has an annual event that recognizes change makers, artists, activists, and storytellers. And Sara was one of the recipients of the Changemaker Award this year, which is really exciting, because of her work as a poet, and also because of her advocacy on behalf of her father. Sara Jayyousi is a 22-year-old Detroit poet and Wayne State University graduate who has a story to tell, one that she's continuing to write each day that she lives. Her father, Sara Jayyousi, a U.S. Navy veteran and former university professor, was unjustly profiled post 9/11 and convicted on charges fabricated by the government in 2004. He was sent to prison for 13 years under inhumane conditions as he served in the communications management units, nicknamed the Little Gitmos, that were created to house innocent Arab and Muslim Americans like Sara's father. Last year, her father's sentence ended and he came home. She embodies a story of what being a daughter of an innocent man in prison is like and how it continues to negatively affect her and her family's lives today. Sara?
It is March 2005. I am 9 years old and my father has just been arrested for a crime he did not commit. My father, after serving in the U.S. Navy, volunteers on weekends to assist various charity organizations that the U.S. government sponsored to provide relief for innocent civilians of the Bosnian and Chechen War. This was back in 94 to 96. He collects, sorts, and sends food, medicine, and clothing. The government says he sent those supplies to aid the enemy, to help terrorists. He was charged and convicted with conspiracy to commit terrorism. At 9 years old, my two sisters, mother and I, are forced to move to Miami, Florida, where my father is held in solitary confinement as the trial unfolds. For years, the government tried to recruit him to work with them against the Muslim community, but he refused. So they threatened to come after him anytime, anywhere in the world he goes. As he is held in the SHU, the government continues to try to recruit him and he continues to say no. I turned 10 that November and I am in courtrooms watching as my father is made into the enemy. 2006 and I'm 10. I've become familiar with the smell of a courthouse, with cruelty they paint my dad in. The solitary confinement building he's held in is in downtown Miami. My sister's mom and I draw pictures in chalk on the sidewalk for him. We can't see him amid the dozens of windows, but spend hours in the sun with chalk-covered hands, trying to tell my dad we love him. 2007, I'm almost 11. The jury finds my father guilty. My mom comes home carrying his suitcase. Everyone's eyes are red for a week. The judge sentenced him to almost 13 years, and she recommends a low-security prison. That's not what ends up happening. 2008, I'm 11. We moved back to Detroit after my father was secretly moved to a high-security, hidden, illegal prison called the CMU, or the Communication Management Unit, in Terre Haute, Indiana. The government made it to put Muslim prisoners in so they can separate them and monitor them, as well as pressure them to work with the FBI and CIA against other Muslims. It's nicknamed Guantanamo North, or Little Gitmos. In the CMU, we only get 4 hours of visiting a month, as well as 15-minute phone calls a week. We combine the end and beginnings of months to make the visits 8 hours over a 3-day period. The visits are expensive, and we drive there. The visiting room is hell. It is small and seems to only get smaller. Worst of all, right down the middle of a room is a plexiglass window separating us from him. We only have 2 static-filled telephones to hear him better. He grips the phone on his side. He's not allowed to put it down during the entire visit. We develop a way to touch my dad through the glass. He places one hand on his side and we place a hand over his on our side. I pretend I feel the glass get warmer. A large steel door is locked behind us. We cannot hug or smell my dad. We cannot touch him. He's there for 3 years. 2010, I'm 14 and starting to have trouble sleeping at night. They say they've moved my father. We think it's closer to Detroit, but it is farther. They sent him to another CMU in Marion, Illinois. The rules are all the same, but the visiting is worse. We're led into the visiting building with other families, other children, but then we're separated. We pass inmates with swastika tattoos. We pass rapists, murderers, with their families sitting in chairs right next to them, holding their hands, sitting in their laps. We pass them and we're led into this indescribably torturous room. The plexiglass window is here too, and it's dirty with smudges. We would clean the glass ourselves with wet tissues, just to be able to see my dad clear. We leave only our handprints on the glass at the end of the visit. The steel door here is left open, but the noise of the dozens of visitors outside makes it difficult to hear anything, even with the sticky black telephones pressed to our ears and a hand over our other earlobe. We can't breathe if we close the door shut. We can't breathe anyways. My dad spends another 3 years there. I am 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm 15, 16, 17, and I never get to hug my own father. We ask them on holidays for just a quick hug, and they say it's a security issue. For 6 years, I see other children who get to sit with their fathers. I imagine them smelling their shirts to hang on to their father's cologne. Imagine them closing their palms tight to remember the feel of their father's skin. 2014, I'm 18. My father has moved to general population, where we finally get to have contact visits. I hug my father for the first time after 6 years and can't stop shaking the entire day. It makes me angry because he's still innocent and we're still surrounded by cameras, keys, guards, and metal bars. My little sister looks like she might cry once, so I buy a box of raisins from the vending machine and stick them in between my teeth, giving her the biggest smile. She laughs, even some of the guards laugh. Everyone laughs, but I just want to scream. I want to take my dad home with us. 2017, I'm 21. My father's released into a halfway house and then sent home after serving the entire 13 years for a crime he didn't commit. He's also given 20 years of probation, restricted to remain in the Eastern District of Michigan. Even with his PhD, it takes months for my dad to find a job in his profession because no one's going to hire a convict. Everything's upside down, we all say sorry too much. My father, Sara Jayyousi, is a PhD degree-holding man, was a professor at Wayne State University, chief facilities director for both DC and Detroit public schools, and is a U.S. Navy veteran. None of this matters because he's also a Muslim American man in a post-9/11 world, where any Middle Eastern can be targeted and profiled by the U.S. government. They're torn away from their families, accomplishments, everything they've built up as U.S. citizens, given false fabricated charges simply because of their religion. Throughout this ordeal, my mother held our family together, and we've held on to our values that the government put on trial, attacked, and wanted us to abandon. Our survival solely depended on our unrelenting patience and strong faith. We faced injustice with unwavering perseverance. Upon his release, the State of Michigan Board of Professional Engineers unanimously voted to renew my father's engineering license, rejecting his conviction. He's now working for a prominent Michigan construction company who also rejected the conviction. 2018, I'm 22 and standing in front of you. I still hear the guard's keys, still smell the metal, still feel the plexiglass against the palm of my hands. Our lives are still wrapped in bars, and our skin is still being bitten into by the barbed wire we can never shake off. None of us ever left prison, but they will never break us. Thank you.